Okay, it is 5:36 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we are going to call to order this meeting of the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council Youth and Outreach Committee. We're going to start off by opening our webpage for the agenda, but I know one thing we need to do is take roll. So Chairperson Chris Valle is here, and I guess I don't really have a co-chair or vice chair, but Lori Jacobs, are you present?
I'm here, but you still haven't changed your name yet. You're still.
Oh, I thank you. There's so many different buttons for everything. While I do that, Thomas Norman.
Present.
And Alec Norman. You're muted, but I saw you say present. And Kelly Miller.
Here.
Okay, Adrenita Reyes Cruz I'm going to call her excused because I was told beforehand she was absent. I didn't hear from her specifically, but I was given a heads up. Angela Sumner is also excused, as is John Barbera. And so we do have enough people to proceed. And again, if you have access, please open.
Oh, your attendee left.
Oh, maybe she was in the right place, maybe not. But anyway, it wasn't being recorded, so that wasn't official. I'm trying to find. I have 3 great big screens, and that just makes more stuff for me to misplace. The agenda. So roll having been taken, from memory, I know that we will have an open invitation for public comment on non-agenda items, if there are any. And I'll consider that while I open the agenda.
I'll make a comment on a non-agenda item if it's okay, Mr. Chair.
Please do.
So I just noticed that the Public Safety Committee posted their agenda, and they do have the Peck Park incident listed as an item. And as I told Chris earlier, I saw a notice that LAPD is doing a press conference tomorrow at 6 p.m. And Ray and I both attended a press conference called by Tim McCosker today at the park. So I just caution everybody, until we have facts, be careful what we say. And Ray was very careful. He did not represent the neighborhood council. He said he was president and that he wanted to get a town hall together to get all the information on the incident, permitting, everything else, security, things like that. So more to follow.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect case study in not, even though we're community members, not doing what a lot of other community members or people were on Facebook, like in real time with their phone. You know, it's turns into rumor mill so quickly that it's almost impossible to help the situation that way. I kind of learned a little bit about it, but I was trying to hesitate to comment. And certainly as neighbor council or as this committee, we should not do that. I'm still trying to figure out how to change my name.
And don't assume anything on the social media chatter. Joe Buscano posted that the suspect had been arrested. Everything else said no suspects have been arrested. So I'm saying that no matter who posts the information,
right,
until we get real confirmations, best we not spread false info.
Yeah, I've seen it on NPR and New York Times. It's gone national for sure, but I don't think I didn't hear anybody say that anybody had been taken into custody.
If you want to see what Ray said, channel 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, and 11 were all there at the press conference today. So I'm sure it'll be on the news.
That's good. I always feel good if Ray's the one who does the talking. I feel like he finds the center line very well. Okay, are there any other comments on non-agenda items? And hearing none, and I see, yeah, our attendee was either in the wrong place or lost interest, which is unfortunate. But item 3, moving on, would be, at Lori's suggestion, and a very good one, review of the website and a planning session about, well, firstly, basically making sure things are current and accurate, but then also just, I thought maybe some brainstorming about what types of things that are technologically feasible that we might want to include if there's, given that it is pretty busy and there's a lot of stuff there, does anyone have any ideas or observations about what we might be doing differently there? Because again, I'm scrolling through it now, and it's like the side of a race car. But
so I'll jump in, Chris. And
yeah, go ahead.
so I used to at least 2 times a week look at the web page and say, oh, this event's over, and just remind Christina, because she's busy, and say, hey, could you take this down? Or I know of a correction or things like that. I'm thinking it would be nice to have 1 or 2 people assigned to be the detectives looking at the website, catch things. One thing I caught that nobody else did is when they first posted the open candidate seat, it said community government seat, but when you looked at the description, it was the description of the business seat. So you have to click on things and make things sure things are correct. And I also asked her to post if anybody applied. You're on the site. Did anybody? She said as of a couple of days ago, nobody had applied for the seat.
Yeah, I'll click on the click here. I don't know if it'll show me.
Because normally that's what they would do as we have an open seat, so you can get familiar with the candidate and then see.
Yeah, I see the form, and it has everything to.
Okay, but on the front page, it doesn't say that, see candidate statements or anything.
I just see the blue bar where it has the
Okay.
application link, but I know other information.
Okay, well, that probably means that nobody has applied, which they'll probably extend the time period. So if anybody knows anybody who is interested, but mainly, I just think it would be a good idea to have 1 or 2 people assigned to cruise through it, check the calendar, make sure, sometimes when I would do that, that's when I would say, ooh, somebody's late on posting an agenda, and it would be a reminder to the committee chair, oops, so just to help us all stay on top of everything. That's a reflection of us.
No, I think you're right. And it actually kind of ties into something I want to talk about later in the agenda, which I think is more of I suppose, an addition or a slight change in direction of the committee as a whole, but we'll come to that.
The other thing, Chris, I wanted to say is, because I did this for a few years, posting things on the website, but I'm no longer the chair of this committee. If I see something I think should be posted, I send it to you and Christina, so that you can, if you go, oh no, what is she thinking? You can say, no, don't post that. Okay, and then I try to make suggestions, this is something good for the e-newsletter or not. And I subscribe to a lot of things, a lot of different sites. So it's nice if we could be the ones to share information with events or legislation or anything coming up that our stakeholders might be interested in.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's in between and other than sort of planning for or participating in events. I think that should be kind of like more of our regular thing. And again, that'll sort of wrap into 4 and 5 as well. But I think that's a good idea in terms of having someone do essentially kind of Q&A or a kind of an editorial role for our public-facing communication stuff. So we can talk about that in a minute, because it does touch on a couple of the other agenda items. But does anybody else have?
I don't see anybody jumping up going, I'll do that.
Well, we'll talk about it. And again, we do have a few people absent, but it's because I think that's a facet of something I kind of, again, we might as well. I mean, if we don't have any other specific discussions about the website or that kind of review stuff, well, we can go ahead and move on, because it does sort of wrap into these other things that I would like to talk about.
We lost Kelly.
And then she might have been on her phone, so I'll look for her to come back. I'm remembering to keep the participant window open, so when people come in, it'll pop up in front of me. So we'll hold on for a second. But I guess as a preview of the other agenda items, the idea of having somebody, basically who kind of come over these things and do some back end editorial stuff. Let's see. We'll hold on a second for Kelly, and it's also not next on the agenda.
So Chris, on the same
Yes.
note, sometimes if somebody wants to take on this role, once in a while, check the other San Pedro Neighborhood Council websites and see if there's something they have posted that might be good for us. That's just another idea. Take some time, but
Right. Well, and again, that's a good. It would, if you were to again just open a couple of browser windows, pull those sites up. It really wouldn't take very long to go through, scroll through the main page, click on a couple of the links. It's maybe 5-10 minute thing, and it's something if I remembered to do it when I was here looking for other stuff, I would probably do as well. But given what I would like to start doing with the committee, it might be good to have it as a delegated kind of task amongst others. Oh, and there she is. Hey, Kelly. We were just talking about dedicating a task in terms of reviewing not only our website for kind of being current and relevant, but also taking a look at the central and coastal and possibly Wilmington or Harbor Gateway, Harbor City, local neighborhood, harbor area neighborhood council web pages to make sure that our stuff is current and to see if anyone else is covering or referring to things that we may or may not have listed. And so does anyone else have any sort of ideas or input on the idea of website review or ideas for what we might like to do with the website in the future? Okay, I mean, and that's a good start. Just by looking at what we have, obviously we'll probably come up with some other things. And so let's move on then, kind of a continuing our update about the homelessness outreach messaging, which I worded to mean I basically have an idea, and it has to do with things that I'm interested in doing. I have obviously the resources and at least some of the talent required to create media like film, video, photos and things like that in terms of storytelling. And I'm actually talking to some people, advocates and activists in San Pedro about short subject documentaries and things like that. But since we have people's attention in terms of Instagram or the Facebook page, and that with some of the, I've seen just from a hint of the attraction that we got with the movie in the park, it's clear that when people have an interest or we put something attractive out for them, there seems to be at least the beginnings of an audience for that. So that, and it also reminded me of something that I do in my professional life, which is being part of the social media chain for public officials. So I shoot for the Board of Supervisors, and which means that they'll send me out to events. I'll hang out with the supervisors, whatever it is that they happen to be doing, and I take the pictures for it, and they get turned into social media posts or things like that. But sometimes and sometimes not. But and I've had conversations like specifically with Supervisor Hahn about the visibility and timeliness and the relevance of your message. So whatever it is that your organization is doing, whether you're a dog walking club or Girl Scouts or the County Board of Supervisors, it's important to tell people about what you're doing. And, because you can do the best work if it happens in secret, then to some extent, it doesn't happen. So it seems that we have the opportunity in the process of the things that we learn about. For instance, we have presentations at the board and stakeholder meetings when we have conversations come up in the individual committees or things that information that we have access to, that we have the opportunity to turn that into content and to provide that in a way maybe more compelling and more interesting than simply talking about it at a meeting. So my idea is, and this is an extension of my asking committee chairs and other members to sort of send me ideas about what we might want to put out, is I have the ability to produce visual content. So one thing that I think we can do in addition to considering it and still publishing a newsletter is short video clips or infographics or things like that, and making that more of a regular thing, at least while there are people like myself who have the technical and the ability and the time to make that stuff happen. But I know that there are enough things going on, and we have enough people with enough connections so that if we wanted to come up with a short, like a 1 minute or a 30-second script, if we wanted to have Ray or another or a committee chair or somebody talk to camera or have a short conversation with another person and turn that into a video, basically something that's scripted, something that's intentional, and publish it. That I think that would take our social media stuff to the next level, but it would also really create a foundation for it at the basic level, which is why have an Instagram if you're just going to say happy Halloween, or why have a Facebook page if you're just going to make a comment on something that everybody already knows is going on. So we can ride the line between, we're not supposed to editorialize, we're not supposed to be delivering our opinion, but we can talk about relevant issues the same way other elected officials do. And so my experience watching, Supervisor Solis or Supervisor Mitchell talk about these things, like, oh, we can be very factual and be very much a conduit for, existing information without sort of putting our stamp of, approval, disapproval, or whatever. And it doesn't have to take an awful lot of time or money. So really, I guess what I would like to do is not reimagine, but sort of expand the mission statement of youth and outreach, and essentially a public relations or an outlet that is, we look for things to talk about, things that are already coming up in the context of any of our committees or the board meetings, and come up with, let's say, a monthly schedule for, let's put out a Instagram video or Facebook video this month about recycling or picking up after your pet or locking your car. And so it could be somebody talking to camera for a second and pointing out let's say their own vehicle. We'll put, somebody put an iPad on the front seat of their car, and I will shoot a video of them talking about how this is a bad idea, and we'll post that. And so it's not super time intensive. It doesn't have to, it's not high production value, but as opposed to us talking about it, having a officer from the Port Police saying, remember, people, you should be locking your cars. If we make a video, which is a great way to get people's attention, that sort of raises our game without really asking us for an awful lot of time. And all we really need is sort of an idea and maybe, half an hour to an hour of anybody's time to meet up, shoot something, and I'll take it home and post it. So that's something I'd kind of like, and I'll sort of make that, now that this is going into the record of our meeting, I'll bring this up again at the board meeting. This is something, if clearly public safety right now being, kind of a hot topic, there will be people who could say, we can have somebody take a short walk through Harper Highlands Park and talk about X, Y, and Z. And so that's, I guess what I'm doing is also offering my services. If anybody has an idea, it's like, oh, this would make a great, PSA type thing or whatever. We have a way to do it. I can make it look really nice, and it's not going to cost us anything, and it wouldn't take very long. Plus, it's good practice for me. So, Lori?
Yeah, no, I love the idea of PSA. And I think it needs to be something that's really relevant to a lot of people. So for instance, when the animal shelter has free cat neutering or, something like that.
Or like an excess of, I think they have they need volunteers, and they have a lot of animals right now.
So, something like that. So if it's something, looking for, a lot of people are looking for places they could volunteer. So maybe you could find like 5 or 6 organizations within San Pedro that are looking for volunteers, and you give them each 10 seconds. And now you've got something, it needs to be something that it's of interest to a lot of people, not just a human story of, look, they saved the cat out of the tree, which is always nice. But I think if it's informational, because that's what we need to be doing. So no, I really like the idea, but Chris, it really takes a discipline to schedule it and figure out what topics. And so you could ask them at the board, maybe what I suggest is you tell them you're thinking of doing this, ask them to email you so we don't get into a long discussion at the board meeting.
Yeah, no,
with what ideas they have and basically calling them a public service announcement. What do you think people in Northwest San Pedro would like to have information on? And it's obviously much more interesting if you have a 30-second video than some flyer that they have to read. We just have to make it not just professional, but something kind of fun.
And
that's where John Barbera will help you with that, Mr. Comedian. So
yeah, well, and it is really how people communicate now. Whether you're an influencer showing people how to put on eyeliner or whatever, or if you're somebody doing donuts in the parking lot, it's what gets people's attention. It's kind of like the basic informational currency, which is a sad thing to say that we don't want to read anymore. But if people aren't reading, then you do have to speak to them differently. And it's something I happen to be able to do. But I also think in terms of the community, and certainly with other governmental or nonprofit agencies, they don't necessarily have the budget to hire somebody to do that. And there also wouldn't be much reason to, like, for example, if we're talking about volunteerism, I'm sure we could find 3 or 6 organizations who have no reason to make a 10-second video, but if they would give me a 10-second comment that can be put into a video, and again, it doesn't take very long. I show up with the camera and a microphone and I say, hi, I'm Joe Schmo from the animal shelter. And, you know, I can cut that together in an hour and get it out there. And so I think it's a really time and energy efficient way to do that stuff in a way that might, well, and then we can do it in a timely fashion. You know, we don't have to wait months until the next flyer comes and the next newsletter comes out.
I really like this idea, and my vote is to keep it positive things, not PSA on, you know.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I know we need to talk about crime, but like you could take the nonprofits that, you know, the Assistance League, Meals on Wheels that are located in Northwest, and you start off with, are you interested in volunteering? And then you go to each of those organizations, have a couple of people say, the reason I volunteer for Meals on Wheels is.
That's a great idea. Well, I mean, so you have a testimonial aspect, you have something that's encouraging, and, you know, I think that might be a good first project. And so what I guess I would be looking for from the rest of the committee or anybody else is just obviously the kernel of an idea, and in some cases possibly an assistant or an interviewer, or even one of you to be a talking head about a subject that you know about or care about. But what I would, you know, I mean, because I know that a lot of people, in my line of work, there is such a thing, and I don't know if there's a word for it, but it's people who don't normally get to make creative choices who are given the opportunity to make creative choices, and they go nuts with it. It's like, what if you had all the menus in the world? You'd spend all day, you know, building a particularly useful item.
You could also toot our own horn for the neighborhood council.
And that's, you know, so, and that's, you know,
there's not a lot we can toot about lately.
well,
but I think, how about neighborhood purpose grants? So you went to all the organizations, we gave them, and you just, you know, we gave, you know, neighborhood purpose grant to this, and of course there are a lot of them are the same ones that you volunteer for. But I think tooting our horn, it's not so much that as this is what we do.
Well, that's, to me, that's the best. Well, I mean, you're supposed to toot your own horn. And again, this has been my experience with the I was going to call it big boy, but the big girl administrators, is that they do so much. I mean, they literally run the entire county, and yet they still have to talk it up because it's too easy to dismiss and take for granted when the road just gets paved like you expect it to, right? So you have to remind people that this stuff doesn't just come from nowhere. And even if they just kind of let it wash over them, that's a more positive impression of the whole process than they would have had otherwise. So we can do the same thing for us.
So we're always trying to recruit people, right?
Yeah, great.
So you do this committee by committee. Now, ours is probably the most fun, okay? But you can show, you know, youth and outreach, we do the parade, we put, you know, we have a booth at, you know, Music by the Sea or whatever we have.
We'll absolutely be able to get people to come.
You can even use pictures in the background, but hey, how would you like to be part of this committee? You only have to come once a month. You know, we want to hear your creativity. And then, you know, the port committee or safety or something like that. It's just, it's got to be enticing, because that's how we get good board members down the road, by getting good committee members.
Well, you're absolutely right. And it's a good contrast for me, because I most of the time when I personally mention being in a committee or being on the board, I talk about it in terms of, you know, the things that I've learned, or the responsibility to the ownership of the community and all that stuff. If you sell the point of it being a creative thing, you know, I think that will attract a lot more people who wouldn't necessarily be turned on by the idea of responsibility. But if you get an opportunity to be creative and do some public service, that sounds a little better. Because again, if we're, you know, doing events like Movie in the Park, if we're in the parade, if we're making videos, that is something that people would want to be part of, and they get to do all the, you know, the grimy stuff along with it.
I'd like to hear from the rest of the committee what ideas they have. Speak up. There you go.
I've been trying to figure out things that, you know, like I'm thinking about school, like I'm thinking about public safety for kids, and I think one of the things that's really got me upset right now is so many people are blowing stop signs. I mean, I live right by Leland, and then I watch them at 7th Street, and people just blow through the stop signs like they're nothing. So I really kind of think that, like, I mean, some public service announcements need to be like safety, especially as school's starting again soon. You know, maybe, I don't know. So I was thinking of things like that. I'm like,
I love that, Kelly.
It's not a bad one. And
We get kids to do it. We
Yeah.
get kids to say, and I had a campaign I was going to start a couple of years ago that said, stop means stop. But how about if we got it from the kids' mouths? I think it might have more impact.
well, you have you know, somebody on foot, somebody on a skateboard, somebody on a bike. I live on 8th, and I go as far as, you know, Old Keene campus pretty regularly, and it's almost like if you get free money if you bet $1 on catching people just rolling straight through, not even slowing down. It
yeah, they don't even
happens,
stop.
yeah, a couple of times per trip out that way, and it's too regular. And I've seen it talked about kind of everywhere else. So that's you know, so what I'll do when I put the minutes together for this is come up with a short list of, you know, kind of basic topics, and then and I see 2 hands, so we have I think Gwen probably had her hand up already, so I'll go to Gwen, but then also Thomas. But yeah, I don't think we'll have any shortage of elevator pitches for this. Go ahead, Gwen.
Hey guys.
Hey.
So you know, there are some really great public service announcements and things like that that are already created that are appropriate for San Pedro. Is there a way that we as board members, if we come across something, can forward it to you in a way that it makes sense that that's what it's for? I have done that in the past, and it seems to not be understood that it's a public service announcement or something like that. That would be great to share. Can we start being able to do that, where we find something that's really appropriate and informational that would be really great on the site?
I would absolutely, yeah. I've asked other committee chairs for it many times, and if the more pre-chewed it is, the better for me. So if somebody's got, for instance, if you can give me a link to a, you know, 10, 30-second video, completely produced video clip, obviously we can just repost that. Or if it's an existing piece of, you know, graphic material or whatever that's already been laid out, I would be more than willing to. Or even if it's just a topic or a piece of information that we can then expand on. Yeah, I mean, that's really what I want, is for the committee chairs and other board members to send that stuff to me, whether it's just a kernel of an idea, whether they already have something, you know, a sense of what they'd like it to look like, and then just work with that. But that's really what I want, is another person who's looking at these things thinking, whether it's something they came up with, or
that's not what the idea here was.
Well, this particular
CFAs are already being publicized. The idea here is that we were going to create our own unique ones coming from our board. I think that's where the emphasis was. Well,
that's the emphasis. And then, so in some cases, like if we found something, I mean, it also doesn't mean that if you saw something that was already completely packaged, that you couldn't simply reinterpret that, but just getting it in the first place has been the hurdle. And we've had conversations about like the sidewalk heaving with the root intrusion and stuff like that. And I had several people say that they knew of particular spots. I said, you send me a cell phone picture, or you give me an address, and I'll go do it, but I didn't get any emails. So that's, you know, if people so much as text me an address or a contact to turn one of those things around, I will do that. Or if they send me something that's just ready to repost, I could do that as well. But I will do, you know, either one or both. Thomas, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. You know, at some point, outreach-wise, I'd love to have an event where we have different city, you know, employees who provide services, talk about how things are different post-COVID. Right, you know, like parks, swimming pool, you know, things, because it is different. I remember when I moved here, you know, it's different from, you know, 12 years ago, and then it's, you know, it's definitely different. Some things are open, some aren't. So that's something we need to do immediately, and we might be, you know, masking up and changing, or maybe we should, you know, regularly just help communicate, because I fear, you know, some people have got out of habits, or people with younger kids who've only, you know, known COVID. I see this with my students, don't even know things you could do, right? I have to walk them around. We have a library, you know, we have things you can do if you're here in person. So, you know, just an idea. And I have to cover Ray's very busy, so I'm going to go off to the port meeting for him because he can't attend. But I at least wanted to throw that idea out there.
That's a great topic. I'm sure there's people from public agencies who got their own, like they're already doing that real time, and it would be a great way for us to wrap that, because we're going to have to face that ourselves as a board, right? We're going to be post-COVID someday. So I think that's a good thing to talk to the community about.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, and we still, oh, you know what? It's a procedural question. Since one of our committee members has left, does it matter that we don't have quorum anymore?
Only if we vote on something.
Okay, so and there's nothing up for that. So I think we have. It seems like we're more or less in agreement of the concept. To me, it really, I guess, long story short, is that this is a way for us to do what the newsletter does with a quicker turnaround and with less money. You know, not everybody in the future will necessarily have, you know, my cameras and the editing suite and all that stuff, but it is also something that a kid could do on their phone, and they do all day, every day. So it's really about sort of establishing the mode of communication from our committee and from the board to the public, whether it's done, you know, more in a more high value mode, or if it's done just real casually, but that it be done. So that and a couple of good suggestions for projects we can work on, I think is it's a very good start. And hopefully, if we you know, discuss this or we present this to the board, we'll get some constructive suggestions as well. So that actually kind of covered item 5 of the agenda as well. And the update about social media is that we're still, you know, our numbers are still going up. There's a drop off. Obviously, we had a lot of traffic based on the publicizing the movie in the park event, and then without anything quite as high tempo and fun, the numbers have gone off. So that sort of reminded me that even if we don't have a sort of a blockbuster every week or every month, that if we start to do smaller, easier things, I think our overall engagement will be better, because, you know, we're not doing this for money, obviously. So if you're, you know, Ford Motor Company or Bank of America, you have a reason for keeping people's attention, and we just want to do it not only for, you know, the theoretical benefit of the community, but also to make us a more attractive option for people who do want to volunteer. Everything I think everything that we're doing, other than the infighting and the name calling, should be a way to suggest that people want to, you know, be involved. When we're doing something, I want to talk about it in such a way that person goes, oh wow, that movie in the park, that's like, I'd like to, you know, help collect socks, or, you know, I want to go pick up trash, or whatever it is. And so if we, and this is the conversation I had with the supervisor Han, is that the job of civilization is to make people feel good about taking out the garbage. You know, like you have to, all the little things we have to do, people need to feel positive about. And so if we do that about the neighborhood council, we, you know, reinforce the fact that we're here trying to do good, and people who do good should hope to maybe want to be part of our thing. So it'll, you know, hopefully be kind of self-reinforcing. Yeah, Gwen, go ahead.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that with Janice Hahn's office. For example, with one of the things I kind of pushed forward was one of the flyers. The county beaches always has an annual contest for designing trash can designs for the kids. And those things are so much fun. And I mean, it would be great to be able to forward that to you. So hopefully we can come up with a couple of formulas, because some of the stuff is only available on Facebook. It doesn't translate into an email for me to deliver to you to get put on Facebook, because it doesn't exist. So if maybe you guys can come up with a couple of pathways to make it, you know, easy for you guys as well.
Well, I think, you know, even if it's something as simple as a screenshot or whatever, if I can, you know, if I know what the core information is, if I simply have to reformat it and just, like, I have a mobile app that I can, it's a real cheap layout software, and I can literally just type text in and then just turn it different colors or use different typefaces. If I'm simply just, you know, reinterpreting verbatim what's already out there. We can do that if we don't have access to the original thing. So yeah, so
Chris,
stuff like that.
I forward those things to you when I see them from the council district or the board of supervisors, and I forward them to Christina. So we're usually pretty good if we see some type of art contest and things like that. We have been posting them. I'm not sure we want to make videos of everything like
Well,
that.
yeah, not that stuff necessarily, but in some cases, even more quickly, like if I'm just on the couch watching TV, in probably 10, 15 minutes, I can create an Instagram ad that will copy over to Facebook. And, it can be, one of the things I think we should be doing is increasing the frequency of our outgoing messages. If we wait for an incident or a hot topic or a newsletter, it's we should be talking to people more than a couple times a year, especially since we can't always assume that they'll have interest enough to attend the board and stakeholder meeting. We need to reach out to them, like as in the name of our committee, and that means doing so more than a couple times a year. And so if we have little things that are easier to produce, then we should just be cranking that tempo up. But at this point, especially, there's no such thing as bad content. If it's relevant to Northwest or even to San Pedro in general, we can turn that around, and it'll be more valuable to people, even if they just kind of glance at it, than if there's nothing there at all.
Alec, do you have any ideas as far as reaching youth? I mean, do you have anything that's specific you could think of that might be more appealing to the high school students?
Besides TikTok?
Can you hear me, by the way, or no?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. So basically, what I've found is when you're using Instagram or Facebook, it's more about consistency. You want to post a lot, even if it's like something super minor. And it lets you know that it's an active account. And
Right.
Eventually, over time, if you have a lot of like content going out, you're gonna get a lot more people going on there because it's a more active account on Instagram. That's just how the what's it called? The algorithm works.
Exactly. If you're not active, it's not going to prioritize your content.
Yeah. So just post a lot more. Like if Gwen has something, screenshot it, give it to you, post it like on your story or something.
Even if it's not the best. Yeah, exactly. Even if it's not the best, have it there, and then you'll appear more often for people. I think that's exactly what we need to do. Well, that's good. Yeah, and so I intend to. In fact, I'm going to probably, dig around, and because I've been, especially at least with Instagram, I don't want to just put stuff out there. And I also know that it's not easy or necessarily official. It's like, I don't know how, I guess it's better, like if you guys send stuff to me, there will be at least, 2 sets of hands on it. I don't want to just crank out stuff myself, but I also know that we can't necessarily circulate it to the whole committee, which would then in effect be a meeting about it. Although if we don't vote, I would, so I want it to be spontaneous and timely, but I also don't want to assume that like my judgment's the only thing that needs to go into make it out there. So
and then copy Christina if you think it's something that should go in the e-newsletter.
Right. So that at least there's some other, feedback on it. But that's a good start. In fact, I got some time to sit around today, and I will see if there's something I can come up with. It's just, something, basically just put my foot on the pedal a little bit harder. Okay, and so that was kind of it for the strategy. And there was so at this point, I guess would be the time to call for adjournment. But before we do that,
I have 2 things.
Yeah, so let's go back to public comment or committee comment on non-agenda items.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, we need to, I think next month, put together the call for candidates for the youth rep.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. I'm sorry, Alec. We're going to keep you for as long as we can, but you're going to be going to school, right? When are you going to school?
Like middle of August.
Middle of August.
What?
Where,
Gonna miss you.
where did you
Yeah.
decide to go?
15th.
He's going to Berkeley, isn't he?
Well, I heard you got in, but I didn't know that was. If you get into Berkeley, chances are you got in other places. So, yeah, it seems you'll probably do fine.
So I don't remember the timing on it, quite honestly, Chris. I'm just like been swamped, but I think we usually start to run this in August and September. So we're a little bit late on this, and we might go a month without a youth rep. but we need to take a look at the application. I'll try to look at it. I'm leaving on Thursday for almost 2 weeks, so I'll be gone, but I wanted to bring that to your attention. And also to let you know that we've confirmed presentation for the August board meeting, even though I probably won't be here. Sherry Weaver will be there from Harbor Interfaith to talk about homelessness. She is trying to get somebody, because you guys requested it, with lived experience, because you
Right.
wanted a success story.
Right.
And of course, Sherry knows how to spin everything to share successes. So I left all the information with Ray so that he can follow up with her. She wanted the link to the meeting, but I know you guys were making some changes. So I said, Ray, you need to follow up with her. And I'm sure you'll talk about it at the executive meeting. So I just wanted to let you know that. I am going to finish my homelessness liaison report early and submit it. But I'm driving back that day, and I got like a 9-hour day. So I don't know if I'll be at the meeting to give the report.
Okay.
So I'll play it by ear, but yeah, I better look up what, you want me to just send you the form we used the last time for the youth? And then you'll just look at it to change the dates, and then you could present it to this committee in August so
Yeah.
that we could release it in September?
Sure.
Okay.
And then what I can do then is also publicize it, right? So this is an example of something we could start talking about now. And that way, when it becomes available, hopefully we'll have gotten someone's attention already.
Yeah, but you need to run it by our committee before you can publicize it. Because we have to talk about what the dates are for them to submit by and be interviewed.
Okay,
and
yeah, that makes sense.
all that. So that's why I said, I'm sorry. I guess I totally spaced it. We should have done
Hey.
this for this meeting. So, and then the last thing I wanted to share with you, I overstepped my reach there and said last month that I would put together an updated food bank stuff. I'm behind. I started it, but I don't know if we have a newsletter scheduled yet anyway. So I'm admitting that I'm behind. So
Oh, and that's okay. We do not have the newsletter scheduled. And, I think what we're talking about coming up with would make it less critical to have something ready on you know what I mean? Like, we don't have to have a quarterly schedule anymore if we can do something in a couple of weeks. But that's all right. Yeah, I mean, you're already doing quite a lot, and in the past have done quite a lot. So you're
I
off
know,
the
but I
hook.
don't like being- I started it and then I just work got too busy. So, and
Yeah.
now I'm on vacation mode and don't care about anything.
Good. That's the whole point of that. If you go on vacation and still care about everything, you're doing it wrong. All right. Well, are there any other than follow-up comments or suggestions? Hearing none. So without objection, then I'm going to go ahead and adjourn.
Please type up a report and submit it so we don't get in trouble.
Yes, the last thing I want is get scolded again. So
Thanks,
Although-
Chris.
the scolding takes less time than the typing technically. So I don't know.
And let's all think good thoughts for John on a speedy recovery.
Yes, absolutely. And he's in Torrance Memorial. I'm thinking about maybe sending him something, although, a fruit basket would probably be a bad idea.
No,
Just to-
no.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, can I give you a holler later?
Sure.
All right, thanks, everybody. Have a good
Hi,
day.
guys.
Thank you, guys. See you next month, if not sooner.